G'day. So as you know, we've been travelling around Australia in our small little Betty machine, which is a 2004 Hyundai Getz. So far we've travelled roughly halfway around Australia, which is around 8,500 kilometres. And we decided it was time to do a breakdown of all the costs and all the money we've paid so far, just to give you guys an idea of how much we can spend, or how much we've spent, and how much it might cost you if you ever choose to do the trip around Australia.
I did the calculation for 1 month's travel. Last month, on this date, we were in Timber Creek, so this is how much it costs to get from Timber Creek to almost Geraldton.
One of the driving factors for doing it in a four-cylinder Getz is try and mitigate our cost in fuel that we were spending in our big 12-metre bus. So in the last 30 days, we've spent approximately $932 in fuel travelling from Timber Creek to here. Just done some rough calculations, and Timber Creek from here is roughly 3,300 kilometres, maybe a little bit more depending because we went in and out of certain campsites. That totals to around 30 cents per kilometre travelled, which is not too bad really. To put that in perspective, that would have filled the bus up roughly twice, and it might have gotten us about 1,200 to 1,800 kilometres in the bus. So I think we're on a winner with Betty. It's a lot cheaper.
Our next big expense are campsites. In the past month, we spent $938 just to sleep. Now, one thing that we realized is the campsite in Western Australia and the Northern Territory are much more expensive than what they are in Queensland. In Queensland, we found a lot of campsites that were only $10–15 per night, but since we adventure in the Northern Territory, we spend about between $30 and $35, $40 per night. We have found a couple of campsites that were a bit cheaper. I think the minimum that we spent was $16 per night, and this is in a campsite that would be free of season. Unfortunately, we're in high season, so we had to pay. We also did a night in a roadhouse that was $19, and I think we stayed in one free campsite once. Unfortunately, traveling with Betty means that we can't stay off-grid too long. We have the solar panels, so we don't need power, but what we need is a shower. And now it's also getting a little bit cold, so having a shower off a solar shower is not very comfortable anymore. We found some very cool beach campsites that we had to pay for that didn't have a shower, but we found very few free options. The only free option that we have found so far are rest area on the side of the highway.
One of our next biggest expenses is food. Unfortunately, we can't go too many days without eating, so we have to buy food. And in the West Coast, it's a little bit more expensive, we've found, compared to the East Coast. I don't know if that's because the prices Australia-wide have increased, or if it's just a little bit more expensive over here because it costs more to ship. I don't know. If someone knows the answer, can you comment below, because food's expensive. But in the last 30 days, we've spent a total of $986 approximately just in groceries. That doesn't include the times when we managed to eat out. Our average grocery shop is roughly between $50 and $100, which lasts 2 or 3 days. We don't have a lot of food storage, so we can't budget or buy for more than 2–3 days at a time. Our biggest food expense is when we do go grocery shopping, is usually the foods that we have to eat on that day, which are cold foods like yogurts or cheeses or fresh milks if we buy them. And our cheapest items that we buy are usually the prepackaged, freeze-dried, long-life food items that last for a few days for a few meals in advance. This food budget also includes food for the dog, which we spend roughly, I think, $16 to $30 per bag of dog food, and that lasts maybe 20 days.
Campsite food and fuel were our 3 biggest expenses. Now, for smaller expenses, we have eating out. We don't eat out a lot, but sometimes we stop in a nice roadhouse and we have a nice breakfast, or sometimes we stop in a campsite with a pub and we'll go out for a beer or for fish and chips. or just hot chips and a beer. So last month we spent $180 in eating out. This includes also the coffee that we might get at the servo, and a few items here and there. Another expense that is actually a very low expense is alcohol. Last month we bought one bottle of wine for $16 for our anniversary, and that's about it. We don't really have a fridge, so we can't store cold beer, and as you might know, warm beer is not very good, and obviously we can't store wine very long, and also we are not big drinkers, so we save some money in there.
One of the smaller expenses on our budget is experiences. This is easily one of the most expensive things we could spend money on, is the experiences that we can do around Australia. We don't really have the budget to do many, so in the last month we've only spent $30 on our experiences. That was $15 per person to see the dolphin show at the Monkey Maya Resort, which you will see in the next video. We didn't include it in this month because it happened obviously more than 30 days ago, but we also spent $50 per person to see the crocs up in Northern Territory. That was definitely worth it. Obviously not in this budget because too long ago. One of the experiences we really wanted to do, but it was way out of our budget, is to see the horizontal falls up in Broome. Unfortunately, it was roughly $1,300 per person, so hugely out of our budget, but it would have been worth it.
Our next expense is camping supplies. We had a lot of the supplies that we took camping with us. We already had them in the bus. Aaron had the swag that he bought many years ago, so we didn't include this in our budget, but sometimes we have some extra expenses, some items that we need to buy or replace while we travel. So for this month our expenses were one solar shower that we pay $40 for. Is 20 liters. We found it very useful, and without it we wouldn't have been able to stay in a lot of awesome beach campsites. As I was saying before, a lot of these beach campsites in Western Australia, they don't have a shower. You still pay for them, but they don't have a shower and they only have a drop toilets, even if they cost $30 to stay in. Speaking of the solar shower, yesterday we went shopping and we drove away with the solar shower on the roof of Betty. We went shopping, we didn't realize anything. Getting back to the campsite, we saw our solar shower in the middle of a roundabout. So we parked Betty and Aaron went to get it. It was a little bit in pieces, so there was the shower head in one side and the bag in the other side. We didn't check it yet, but it seems fine, so hopefully it still works. Otherwise our expenses for this month will go up another $40 because we will have to replace it. Another thing we spent money on this month was umbrellas. We broke our original umbrella that we bought before leaving for $9 at Bunnings. So we went to Kmart and we bought this time 2 umbrellas for when the first one will break, and we spend $15 for each umbrella. So this brings the total of the camping supplies for the month at $70.
One of the last monthly expenses that we've calculated is our butane gas that we use for our cook stove. These little things don't last very long, and the packs, they range actually depending on where you buy them from. We bought them for as cheap as $4.50 for 3 cans, or $15 for 4 cans. We've roughly calculated our gas usage at $32 per month, which is not too bad. In comparison with our gas usage in the bus, we go through a 9 kilogram gas cylinder in about a month, and that's around $36 to refill. So approximately the same price.
One of our big monthly expenses is internet. Last year we bought Starlink, and let me tell you, it was a game changer. We had connection in the middle of the desert. We work online, so we're able to work from everywhere. It is fantastic. Highly recommend Starlink if you travel around Australia. It's a bit expensive. The hardware cost us $450 last year, and we pay $174 every month. So it's a bit pricey, a little bit more expensive than your average internet, but let me tell you, you have connection everywhere. We've met other people that have Starlink on the road and they're all very happy with it. We also have our personal phone expenses, which I didn't calculate in this budget. I pay, I think, $80 with Optus, and Aaron pays $50 with Telstra. Let me tell you, with Optus I almost never have connection, so I wouldn't recommend it if you travel around Australia. Telstra, however, is a bit better, but nothing compared to Starlink, really. Of course, not sponsored, but I'm a huge fan of Starlink. It actually changed how we work.
This is more of a continual expense because we pay it regardless of whether we're traveling or not, but we have to pay Rego on the Betty machine. She costs about $400 for 6 months, and that's roughly $66 per month. One of those things you just have to pay, even if you don't like it, for the privilege of driving your car on a road that's full of potholes. If it's even a sealed road. Sometimes it's not a sealed road, it's a dirt road full of corrugation, and sometimes it's sand.
Our last expense for the month is Betty insurance, which is $47 per month. She's a little car, so it's very cheap, which is great. And to be completely transparent with you, I didn't include it in this budget, but we also pay almost $200 per month for our bus insurance, which is now parked at Aaron's mom's house. This is because even if we don't drive it, we are a bit afraid that it might burn down for some unknown reason, and we have all our stuff and our life in there, so that's why we keep paying insurance.
So that comes to a grand total of $3,405 for the month.
It was slightly painful to do this video because sometimes I'd rather not knowing how much we spend. But it needs to be done, and we hope that we gave you an idea of how much it would cost you to travel around Australia in a swag and a little car.
Without doing much at all.
Yes, but we have seen a lot of cool places.
Yeah, so if you're travelling around in a larger vehicle like a caravan or a bus, it's obviously going to cost you a lot more. As well, it's going to cost you a lot more if you're doing experiences that we missed out on as well. And if you're a heavy drinker, and if you're a smoker, I think that's about it.
If you're a heavy drinker and a smoker, you might as well go broke in Australia because the
expensive.
prices are ridiculous.
Yeah, and if you eat a lot, yeah.
But if you want to go for a holiday in Italy, alcohol and cigarettes are very cheap there. I'm not sure if it's a good thing, but if you like it.
Anyway, that's the end of this video. We hope you found it informative. Don't forget to give it a like, share it with your friends, subscribe if you haven't already, and we'll see you in the next one.